Good morning, students. In the online classes of physiology, we are studying pituitary gland, which is included in paper 2nd of B.Sc part 2nd bio of M.D.S University, Ajmer. In the previous lectures in endocrinology, we studied the structure and hormones of anterior pituitary gland. Today we will discuss the pituitary tropins. The anterior pituitary, as we studied in our previous lecture, is often referred to as the master gland because together with the hypothalamus, it brings about the complex regulatory functions of many other endocrine glands by secreting the tropic hormones. The tropic hormones are the hormones that have other endocrine glands as their target. So, the pituitary tropins, the pituitary hormones, as I said earlier, which influence the activities of their other endocrine glands, principally those which are involved in reproduction and stress, are called the tropic hormones. They are carried by the blood to other target glands and aid in maintaining these glands and stimulating the production of their respective hormones. The principal four tropic hormones that we are going to study today are the thyroid stimulating hormone, the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone, and the adrenocorticotropic hormone. In this diagram here, it is very clear that this is the anterior lobe of the pituitary. It will secrete the thyroid stimulating hormone, which will stimulate the thyroid gland. Then the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which will stimulate the adrenal cortex. And it has two hormones, gonadotropic hormones, which are going to stimulate the gonads. So these are the tropic hormones. The first tropic hormone that we will study is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. This hormone stimulates the cortex of the adrenal gland and produces glucocorticoids. The production of corticotropic hormone is particularly important during emotional and physical stress. The second is the thyroid stimulating hormone. This hormone controls the growth and activity of thyroid gland. It will influence the uptake of iodine, the synthesis of thyroid hormones, which are the T3 and T4 by thyroid gland, and the release of stored hormones into the bloodstream. Then the third tropic hormone is the gonadotropic hormones. These are of two types, the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. The follicle stimulating hormone functions both in males and in females. In females, the target organs of follicle stimulating hormone are the ovaries, where the FSH or the follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the development and ripening of the ovarian follicle. During its development, the ovarian follicle secretes its own hormone, which is known as the estrogen. Whereas in males, the follicle stimulating hormone, it stimulates the development of seminiferous tubules and spermatogenesis. Because it has action on both male and female, that is, follicle stimulating hormone has action on both male and female, therefore it is also called as the gametokinetic factor. Then the second hormone, that is the luteinizing hormone, it also functions on both males and females. In males, the luteinizing hormone promotes the final maturation of ovarian follicle. It stimulates the ovulation and the formation of corpus luteum, which secretes the second ovarian hormone known as the progesterone. Whereas in males, the luteinizing hormone stimulates the interstitial cells of the testes. It causes them to release the male sex hormones, which are the androgens, into the bloodstream. Hence, in males, it is also known as interstitial cell stimulating hormone. Now, there is a feedback control of the tropic hormones. When the secretion of hormone is controlled by some factors or other hormones, it is called as feedback control. This feedback control can be both positive and negative. When the hormone secretion is amplified by its own secretion, it is called positive feedback. And when a high level of particular hormone inhibits their further secretion, it is called negative feedback. So, the tropic hormones are usually subject to feedback inhibition at the pituitary or hypothalamic level by the hormone product of the final target gland. Thus, when the blood level of adrenocorticoids or the sex hormones or the thyroid hormones becomes high, they inhibit the release of their respective tropic hormones. And if the concentration of these hormones in the blood level falls, the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary then they will secrete more tropic hormones. So it has a both negative and a positive feedback. In this diagram, we can clearly understand this. For example, this is the pituitary. It secretes the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which stimulates the cortex of the adrenal gland, and it then secretes its own hormones, which are the corticoids. So when the level of the corticoids increases in the blood, then it gives a negative feedback and the ACTH secretion is stopped. Similarly, in the thyroid stimulating hormone, the anterior pituitary gland secretes the thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates the thyroid gland, which secretes its own hormones, which is the thyroxine. In the blood, if the level of thyroxine increases, then it gives a negative feedback and the thyroid stimulating secretion of the thyroid stimulating hormone stops. Similar is the case with the gonadotropic hormones, which are the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. These both stimulate the gonads in male as well as in female, and they secrete their respective hormones. In the case of females, it is the estrogen and progesterone, and in the case of males, it is the testosterone hormone. If in the females the level of estrogen and progesterone increases, it gives a negative feedback to the pituitary gland, and it stops the secretion of follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Similar is the case in the males. If the level of testosterone increases, it gives a negative feedback to the anterior pituitary and it stops secreting the gonadotropic hormone. So in this way, the secretion of has a negative feedback which controls the secretion of the respective stimulating hormones. Through such control systems, the output of the tropic pituitary hormones is automatically self-adjusting. The blood level of the hormones thus maintained and their production is related to their needs. This type of regulatory system of hormonal secretion is called feedback, plus minus or pull and push control mechanism that operates between the hormone and the target organ. Here is a brief list of the hormones of the anterior pituitary gland. We studied in the previous lecture the three main hormones of the anterior pituitary glands which directly affects the specific organs. And today we studied the tropic hormones, the pituitary tropins. So together, what are their functions? This is just a brief. In this table there is a brief of what we studied in the previous lectures. And today, for example, it is the growth hormone. The growth, what is the function of the growth hormone? It increases the rate of mitosis. It increases the amino acid transport into cells, increases the rate of protein synthesis, and increases the use of fats for energy. In all, the growth hormone stimulates the growth of the body. The thyroid stimulating hormone, it increases the secretion of thyroxine and T3 by the thyroid gland, because this is the pituitary tropin, the TSH, ACTH and the FSH. The adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is again a pituitary tropin, it increases the secretion of the cortisol by the adrenal cortex. Then the prolactin, it stimulates the milk production by the mammary glands. The follicle stimulating hormone, which is a pituitary tropin, in women, it initiates the growth of ova in ovarian follicles. It increases the secretion of estrogen by follicle cells. Whereas in men, it initiates the sperm production in the testes. Then is the luteinizing hormone. This is again a tropic hormone. In women, it causes ovulation. It causes the ruptured ovarian follicle to become the corpus luteum, and it increases the secretion of progesterone by the corpus luteum. And in men, luteinizing hormone increases the secretion of testosterone by the interstitial cells of the testes. So students, today we studied about the pituitary tropins, how the hormones, the stimulating hormones secreted by the anterior pituitary, how they are secreted by the anterior pituitary gland, and they control the functions of the other endocrine glands. In the next lecture, we will study about the hormones of the posterior pituitary gland.